Diana Lukeman ran across the hospital parking lot and threw her arms around a complete stranger. Her heart hammered against her ribs as she pressed herself against his solid chest, feeling expensive fabric beneath her trembling fingers. The man went rigid, muscles tensing like coiled steel beneath her touch. She could feel his surprise, his confusion, but she didn't let go. She couldn't let go because Trevor was 20 feet behind her and closing fast. "Please," she whispered desperately against the stranger's chest. "Please just play along. There's a man following me and I'm scared and I just need—" The stranger's arms came around her, slowly, deliberately, like he was making a decision that would change everything. "Breathe," he said, voice low and accented. Korean, maybe, smooth as aged whiskey. "You're safe now." Those words. Diana had been waiting for 2 years to hear those 3 words from someone she loved and who meant them. If you've ever felt trapped by someone who claimed to love you, if you've ever been so desperate you'd trust a dangerous stranger over someone you knew, stay with this story. It gets darker before it gets lighter, but I promise you, it's worth it. Hit that subscribe button, smash the like, and drop a comment telling me where you're watching from. Diana is about to make a choice that will change her life forever. Let's see if she survives it. Trevor's voice cut through the night air. "Diana, what the hell are you doing?" The stranger turned, keeping Diana tucked against his side. She risked a glance up at him, and her breath caught. He was tall, well over 6 feet, with sharp features that looked carved from stone. Black hair pushed back from his forehead, dark eyes that assessed Trevor with the cold precision of a predator evaluating prey. But it was the tattoos that made her stomach flip. Dragons curled up his neck, disappearing beneath his black collar, intricate scales catching the parking lot lights. "I'm the man she's been seeing," the stranger said calmly. "And you are?" Diana felt his hand settle on her hip. She felt the 3 powerful P's: present, possessive, and protective. Trevor's face flushed red. "Seeing? Diana, I know every person in your pathetic little life. You're not seeing anyone. You barely have time to sleep between your shifts." He stepped closer, ignoring the stranger entirely. "Stop playing games and get in my car. We need to discuss the nursing board complaint." Diana's blood turned to ice. "What complaint?" "The one I filed this morning." Trevor's smile was poisonous. "Seems there's been some controlled substances going missing from the ER, morphine specifically, and witnesses place you near the medication cart during several discrepancies." He tilted his head. "Of course, I could make it all go away, if you just stop being stubborn and come home." The stranger's grip on Diana's hip tightened fractionally. "She's not going anywhere with you." Trevor finally looked at him, really looked, and something flickered across his face. Fear, maybe, or recognition of danger. "This doesn't concern you, man. This is between me and my girlfriend." "Ex-girlfriend," Diana found her voice, though it shook. "I left you 6 months ago, Trevor. I changed my number. I moved. I blocked you on everything. What part of that suggests I want to talk?" "The part where you're still wearing the necklace I bought you." Trevor's eyes locked on the silver chain at her throat. "The part where you still love me, even if you're too proud to admit it." Diana's hand flew to the necklace. She'd forgotten she was wearing it. She'd kept it because selling it might cover one of her mother's chemotherapy sessions, not because of sentiment. The stranger moved so fast, Diana barely registered it. One moment he was beside her. The next, he was standing between her and Trevor, a wall of controlled violence. "Let me be very clear," he said, voice dropping to something dangerous. "The woman behind me is under my protection now. That means you don't call her. You don't text her. You don't file false complaints with her nursing board. You don't even think her name too loudly." He stepped closer to Trevor. Because if I hear you've come within 100 feet of her, I will take that as a personal insult. Do you understand what happens to people who insult me? Trevor backed up, hands raised. Man, I don't want trouble. I don't even know who you are. Good. Let's keep it that way. The stranger pulled out his phone, tapped something, and within 30 seconds, 2 black SUVs pulled into the parking lot. Men emerged, dressed in dark suits, moving with military precision. These gentlemen are going to escort you to your car, and then you're going to drive away and remember this conversation every time you think about bothering Diana again. Trevor's bravado crumbled. He looked at Diana one last time, something ugly twisting his features. You think you're better than me now? You think this thug is going to save you? He laughed bitterly. You're drowning in debt, Diana. Your mother's dying. You're one missed shift away from losing everything. You need me. She doesn't need anything from you, the stranger said flatly. Leave. Now. The men flanked Trevor, and he had no choice but to go. Diana watched his car peel out of the parking lot, tail lights disappearing into the Los Angeles night, and felt something inside her crack. The adrenaline that had been holding her together evaporated, and her legs turned to water. The stranger caught her before she hit the pavement. Easy, he murmured, lowering her gently to sit on the curb. Put your head between your knees. Breathe. Diana obeyed, gulping air, trying not to vomit. I'm sorry. God, I'm so sorry. I don't make a habit of hugging random men in parking lots. I was desperate, and you looked like someone who could help, and I just... She couldn't finish. The tears came instead, hot and furious, all the fear and exhaustion and hopelessness of the last 2 years pouring out. The stranger crouched beside her, silent, until her sobs subsided into hiccups. My name is Jae-hyun Park, he said quietly, and you're not random. You're the nurse who saved my man's life 3 hours ago. Diana's head snapped up. She looked at him through blurry eyes, then recognition hit. The gunshot wound, the one everyone said wouldn't make it. She'd worked 40 minutes past her shift doing chest compressions, refusing to call time of death, driving the other doctors crazy with her stubborn insistence that his heart would restart. And it had. Tae-min is alive because you wouldn't give up on him. Jae-hyun's dark eyes held hers. So when I saw you run across this parking lot looking terrified, I decided I wouldn't give up on you either. I can't afford to owe favors to... Diana stopped herself. To what? Say it. His voice was calm, not offended. To whoever you are, whatever you are. Diana gestured at the SUVs, the men, the expensive suit that probably cost more than her monthly rent. You're not a regular businessman. No, Jae-hyun agreed, I'm not. But I'm also not asking you to owe me anything. You saved one of mine. I just returned the favor. Diana pushed herself to standing on shaky legs. Trevor wasn't bluffing about the nursing board complaint. If he really filed it, even if it's false, the investigation alone could suspend me. I can't afford to not work. My mother's treatment, her voice broke. Jae-hyun stood, studying her with an intensity that made her feel seen in a way that was both terrifying and comforting. What if I could make it go away? Nothing's free. You're right. So here's the price. He pulled a card from his pocket, plain black with silver lettering, just a name and number. You call me if he bothers you again. You let me know if the complaint moves forward. You accept that sometimes the world isn't fair, but that doesn't mean you have to face it alone. Diana took the card with trembling fingers. Why would you do this for a stranger? Because 2 years ago, my sister died in an ER waiting room. She had a stab wound from an ex-boyfriend who couldn't accept she'd left him. She bled out waiting for treatment because the hospital wanted insurance verification first. His jaw tightened. So when I see a woman being terrorized by an ex, when I see someone who fights for strangers, The way you fought for Taemin, I don't consider that stranger anymore. I consider that someone worth protecting." The weight of his words settled over Diana like a blanket, heavy, warm, dangerous. "I should go," she whispered. "My shift ended 3 hours ago. I need to sleep." "Let me have someone drive you home. It's late." "I'm fine. My car's right there." Jae-hyun looked at the beat-up Honda Civic with the duct-taped bumper and didn't comment. "Then let me walk you to it." He did, keeping a respectful distance, but close enough that Diana felt shielded. When she slid behind the wheel, he leaned down to her window. "Diana Lukeman," he said, testing her name like he was memorizing it. "I meant what I said. You're safe now, but you have to let yourself believe it." She didn't know how to respond to that, so she just nodded and drove away. In her rearview mirror, she watched Jae-hyun Park stand in that parking lot, hands in his pockets, watching until her car disappeared from view. Diana didn't cry again until she got home to her studio apartment with its peeling wallpaper and the medical bills stacked on her counter like accusations. $47,000 in debt from her mother's cancer treatment. Eviction notice for being 2 months behind on rent. Student loans in default. And now Trevor's threat hanging over her head like a guillotine. She pulled out Jae-hyun's card and stared at it for a long time. The next morning, Diana woke to her phone ringing. Unknown number. "Ms. Lukeman? This is Cheryl from the California Board of Registered Nursing. I'm calling about a complaint that was filed against you yesterday by Dr. Trevor Morrison." Diana's stomach dropped. "I didn't take any medications. I would never." "Oh, we know." Cheryl's voice was brisk, but not unkind. "Dr. Morrison withdrew his complaint this morning, said it was a misunderstanding. He was quite insistent that we close the case immediately and apologize for any inconvenience." Diana sat down hard on her bed. "He withdrew it?" "Yes. You're clear. Have a good day, Ms. Lukeman." The line went dead. Diana stared at her phone, then at the black card on her nightstand. She knew exactly why Trevor had withdrawn the complaint. Someone had made him. Her phone buzzed. Text from unknown number. "You're welcome, and you don't owe me anything. But if you want to thank me properly, have dinner with me tonight. 7 p.m. I'll pick you up." JP, Diana should have said no. Should have blocked the number, thrown away. The card. Pretended. Last night never happened. Instead, she texted back. "How did you get my number?" "I'm very good at finding things I want to find. Is that a yes to dinner?" Diana looked around her apartment, at the life she'd built from nothing. That was crumbling anyway, despite her best efforts. At the stack of medical bills that would never get paid on a nurse's salary. At the future that looked like drowning in slow motion. She thought about Jae-hyun Park's arms around her, the way he'd said, "You're safe now," like it was a promise he intended to keep. "Yes," she typed, "but somewhere public. Anywhere you want. I'll see you at 7. Diana set down her phone and tried to convince herself she hadn't just made a deal with the devil. She failed. Jae-hyun picked her up in a black Mercedes that probably cost more than Diana would make in 5 years. He held the door open like she was precious, and Diana tried not to think about how long it had been since anyone had treated her like something other than a workhorse. He'd chosen a Korean restaurant in Koreatown, the kind without English signs, where ajumas shouted orders and the air smelled like home cooking and comfort. "You said public," Jae-hyun said, as he guided her inside with a hand on the small of her back. "This is very public. Also, very good bulgogi." They were led to a private room anyway, traditional low table with cushioned mats. Diana kicked off her shoes, grateful she'd worn her decent pair instead of the ones with holes in the soles. "Tell me about your mother," Jae-hyun said after they'd ordered, after the banchan had arrived in small, colorful dishes. Diana hadn't expected that. "Why?" Because you work yourself to exhaustion for her treatment. Because Trevor used her as leverage. Because I want to know what matters to you." So Diana told him about her mother's stage 4 breast cancer diagnosis 18 months ago, about the aggressive treatment protocol that insurance covered, partially, but not enough, about working 70-hour weeks and still falling behind, about the guilt of not being able to save the woman who'd sacrificed everything to raise her alone. Jae-hyun listened without interrupting, dark eyes focused completely on her face. "She's at City of Hope right now," Diana finished. "The treatment is working, but it's expensive, and I'm running out of options, and I don't know." She stopped, embarrassed by how much she'd revealed to this stranger. "What if money wasn't a problem?" Jae-hyun asked quietly. "That's a nice fantasy. I'm serious. What if I could make the debt disappear? Get your mother the best treatment available? What would you do with your life if you weren't drowning?" Diana laughed bitterly. "Finish my nurse practitioner degree. Maybe open a clinic in an underserved neighborhood. Help people who can't afford to help themselves." She shook her head. "But that's not reality. Reality is working until I collapse and hoping it's enough. It doesn't have to be." Diana looked up sharply. "What are you offering, Jae-hyun?" He set down his chopsticks. "The truth. I run an organization that operates in the shadows. Protection, mostly. Some businesses pay us to keep them safe from worse people. Some pay us to solve problems the police can't or won't touch. I'm not a good man by most definitions." "But," Diana prompted, "but I also fund community programs, pay medical bills for families who can't afford them, protect people like my sister, who was failed by a system that values money over lives." His eyes met hers. "I need a private nurse, someone who can treat my men when they're injured, someone I can trust. The pay is $20,000 a month plus housing. Your mother gets moved to the best cancer center in California, all expenses covered." Diana's breath caught. "That's not nursing. That's being an accomplice. You treat injuries, nothing more. You wouldn't participate in any illegal activities. You'd still keep your ER license, pick up shifts when you want. You'd just also be available when I need you. And what do you need from me besides medical care?" Jae-hyun was quiet for a long moment. "Honestly, I need someone who reminds me why I started this. Someone who hasn't been corrupted by this life. Someone who still believes in saving people instead of using them." Diana should have walked away. Every rational bone in her body screamed that this was wrong, dangerous, a line she couldn't uncross. But she thought about her mother's last chemo session, how Diana had held her while she vomited, how her mother had whispered, "I'm sorry for being such a burden." She thought about the eviction notice, the student loans, the future that looked like working herself to death and still failing. "I have conditions," Diana said slowly. Jae-hyun leaned forward. "Name them." "I don't patch up anyone you've hurt. Only people who are already injured. I'm not helping you torture someone." "Agreed." "I maintain my ethics. If someone needs a hospital, they go to a hospital. I don't cover up crimes." "Agreed." "And if I ever feel unsafe, if this arrangement ever compromises who I am, I walk away. No retaliation." Jae-hyun extended his hand across the table. "You have my word. On my sister's memory, you walk away clean if you choose to." Diana looked at his hand. Strong, scarred knuckles, a tattoo peeking from beneath his sleeve. This was the moment, the choice that would define everything after. She took his hand. His fingers closed around hers, warm and sure, and Diana felt the ground shift beneath her feet. "When do I start?" she asked. "Tomorrow. I'll have movers pack your apartment, get you settled in the guest house. Your mother will be transferred to City of Hope by end of week." "That fast?" Jae-hyun smiled, and it transformed his face from dangerous to devastating. "I'm very efficient when I want something." "And what do you want?" His thumb traced, across her knuckles, sending electricity up her arm. Right now, to make sure you never have to choose between your ethics and survival again. The next 3 months were a dream Diana kept waiting to wake from. The guest house on Jaehyun's property was bigger than her old apartment, with actual furniture and a kitchen that didn't have cockroaches. Her mother's transfer to City of Hope happened seamlessly. The doctors there amazed at the quality of the previous treatment, but confident they could do better. Diana treated exactly 3 injuries in those first weeks: a knife wound that needed stitches, a broken arm that needed setting, a concussion that needed monitoring. None of them from Jaehyun's actions. All of them patched up without questions, just competent medical care. But it was the time between the emergencies that undid her. Jaehyun would find her reading in his library and sit beside her, not speaking, just present. He'd bring her coffee in the morning exactly how she liked it, 2 sugars and cream, even though she'd never told him. He'd ask about her day, actually listen to the answer, remember details. When Diana's mother had a bad reaction to treatment, and Diana fell apart in Jaehyun's bathroom, crying so hard she couldn't breathe, he'd held her without judgment, just held her while she shattered, then helped her piece herself back together. "You carry so much," he'd whispered against her hair. "Let me carry some of it." The kiss happened on a Tuesday. Diana had just finished a shift at the ER, came home exhausted, and found Jaehyun in the kitchen cooking. Actual cooking, not ordering takeout. He was making kimchi jjigae, sleeves rolled up to reveal the full extent of his tattoos. "You cook?" she'd asked, charmed despite herself. "My mother taught me before she died. Said a man who can't feed himself is half a man." He'd looked up, smiled. "Hungry?" They'd eaten together, talking about nothing and everything. Diana told him about the cardiac arrest she'd helped with, the way the patient's wife had cried with relief. Jaehyun told her about his sister, how she'd wanted to be a teacher, how he'd started his first community scholarship program in her name. "You're not what I expected," Diana had said. "What did you expect? A monster, maybe. Someone cruel. But you're just sad." Jaehyun had gone still. "Sad? You carry grief like armor. Like if you protect enough people, save enough lives, maybe it'll balance out losing her." He'd stared at her for a long moment, something raw and vulnerable crossing his face. Then he'd stood, crossed to where she sat, and cupped her face in his hands. "Can I kiss you?" he'd asked, voice rough. Diana had nodded, and when his lips met hers, it felt like coming home and jumping off a cliff simultaneously. He'd kissed her like she was air, and he was drowning, like she was the answer to a question he'd been asking his whole life. When they'd broken apart, both breathing hard, Jaehyun had rested his forehead against hers. "I'm falling in love with you," he'd whispered. "Tell me to stop, and I will. Tell me this is just business, and I'll never mention it again. But tell me the truth." Diana had kissed him again instead of answering, and that had been answer enough. For 3 months, Diana lived in a bubble of happiness she'd never experienced. Jaehyun was attentive without being controlling, generous without making her feel bought. He'd enrolled her in the nurse practitioner program at UCLA, paid the tuition without asking. He'd taken her to art galleries and hole-in-the-wall restaurants, and taught her Korean phrases that made him smile. Her mother's cancer was in remission. Diana was actually sleeping more than 4 hours a night. She'd stopped counting every dollar, stopped living in constant survival mode. She should have known it couldn't last. The knock came on a Saturday afternoon. Diana was in the main house, curled up on Jaehyun's couch reading pharmacology notes. Jaehyun had gone to answer the door, and Diana heard him make a sound she'd never heard before. A choked gasp, like someone had punched him. She got up, walked to the foyer, and her world imploded. A woman stood in the doorway. Beautiful, delicate, with long black hair and features that spoke of Korea. She looked frail, skin too pale, shadows under her eyes. And holding her hand was a little boy, maybe 7 years old, with Jaehyun's eyes. "Jaehyun, the woman said softly in Korean, then switched to accented English. "I'm sorry to come like this, but we need to talk. About Min-jun, about our son." Diana watched Jaehyun's face cycle through shock, denial, wonder, and pain in the span of seconds. Watched him drop to his knees in front of the little boy, hands shaking as he reached out, then stopped, unsure if he was allowed to touch. "How?" Jaehyun's voice cracked. "Seo-yeon, how? You said you were going back to Korea. You said we were over. You never told me." "I know." Seo-yeon's eyes filled with tears. "I was scared. Your life was dangerous, and I was pregnant, and I thought I was protecting him by keeping him away. I thought I could raise him alone." She swayed slightly, and Jaehyun jumped up to steady her. "But I'm sick, Jaehyun. Brain cancer. Terminal. I have maybe 6 months. And Min-jun needs his father." The little boy was watching this exchange with huge, frightened eyes. He looked at his mother, then at Jaehyun. Then his gaze landed on Diana. "Who is she?" he asked in Korean. Jaehyun followed his son's gaze, and Diana saw the exact moment he remembered she was there. Saw the conflict in his eyes, the impossible situation crashing down. "This is Diana," Jaehyun said, voice carefully controlled. "She's very important to me." "Is she your wife?" Min-jun asked. "No, but then Iyama can stay with you," the boy interrupted. "While she's sick, Iyama says you have a big house. We can all stay together until—" His voice broke and he started crying. Seo-yeon pulled her son against her, her own tears falling. "Min-juna, we can't just—" "Yes," Jaehyun said hoarsely. "Yes, you can stay. Both of you. As long as you need." Diana felt like she was watching this happen from underwater. She saw Jaehyun's face, saw the son he'd never known about, saw the dying ex-lover who'd kept that secret. She saw her future crumbling in real time. "I should go," Diana heard herself say. "Give you time to—" "Diana, wait!" Jaehyun started toward her, but Min-jun grabbed his hand. "Appa, don't leave. Please don't leave." The little boy was crying harder now. Everyone always leaves. Jaehyun looked torn between Diana and his child, and Diana made the decision for him. "It's okay," she said, backing toward the door. "Family first. We'll talk later." She left before he could respond, went back to the guest house, and tried to breathe through the panic. This was fine. This was manageable. Jaehyun had a son. Dying ex. A family that needed him. And Diana was just the woman who'd hugged him in a parking lot 4 months ago. If your heart is breaking for Diana right now, if you've ever watched the person you love have to choose someone else, even when you know they should, drop a comment. Tell me if you think Diana should fight for Jaehyun or walk away. Because what happens next is going to test everything she thought she knew about love, family, and what it means to be enough. Don't go anywhere. The first week was hell. Seo-yeon moved into the main house's guest room. Min-jun clung to his mother, terrified and grieving a loss that hadn't happened yet, but was inevitable. And Jaehyun transformed into someone Diana barely recognized. He was still kind to her, still made sure she had everything she needed. But there was a distance now, a wall built from obligation and grief and the sudden weight of fatherhood. Diana watched from her guesthouse window as Jaehyun played with Min-jun in the garden, watched him push his son on the swing set he'd had installed overnight, watched Seo-yeon sit on the patio wrapped in blankets, smiling through her pain as she observed father and son together. They looked like a family. Diana felt like an intruder in her own life. The breaking point came 2 weeks in. Diana had been invited to family dinner. Seo Yan insisting it was important that Min Jun see his father happy with someone. But the dinner was conducted entirely in Korean, rapid conversation Diana couldn't follow. She sat there, smiling politely, feeling invisible. At one point, Min Jun had laughed at something Jae-hyun said, then looked at his mother with such pure joy that Seo Yan had started crying. Happy tears, but tears nonetheless. And Jae-hyun had reached across the table to comfort her, his hand covering hers, and they'd shared a look of such profound, shared grief and love that Diana felt like she'd been punched. After dinner, Diana excused herself, went back to the guest house, started packing. Jae-hyun found her 30 minutes later. "What are you doing?" he asked from her doorway. "What does it look like?" Diana didn't stop folding clothes. "I'm leaving." "Diana, don't." "Don't what?" She whirled on him. "Don't leave you to focus on your dying ex-girlfriend and the son you never knew about? Don't remove myself from this impossible situation where I'm the outsider in what should be your family?" "You're not an outsider." "Aren't I?" Diana's voice cracked. "I sat at that table tonight and didn't understand a single word. I watched you with them and saw what your life would have been if Seo Yan hadn't left. I saw the family you're supposed to have, and I'm not part of that picture, Jae-hyun. That's not true. Then tell me." Diana crossed her arms, trying to hold herself together. "Tell me honestly that you haven't thought about what it would be like if Seo Yan wasn't dying, if you could have a second chance with her, with Min Jun. Tell me you haven't wondered if maybe this is the universe giving you back what you lost." Jae-hyun was quiet for too long. Diana's laugh was bitter. "That's what I thought." "I love you," Jae-hyun said desperately. "Diana, I love you. But I also have a son who's terrified, and a woman who's dying, and I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to be everything everyone needs. You're not supposed to be everything to everyone. You're supposed to be a father to Min Jun. And you're supposed to give Seo Yan peace in her final months." Diana zipped her suitcase. "And I'm supposed to be strong enough to let you do that without making it harder. So you're just going to leave? Give up on us?" "I'm not giving up. I'm giving you space to do what you need to do without feeling guilty about me." Diana finally looked at him, really looked, and saw the exhaustion, the grief, the impossible weight he was carrying. "I love you too much to be another burden." Jae-hyun crossed the room, grabbed her hands. "You're not a burden. You're the only thing keeping me sane right now." "Then let me go so you can actually deal with this." Diana pulled her hands free. "I'll stay in contact. I'll still work for you if you need medical care. But I can't live here and watch you build a family that doesn't include me. I'm not that strong." She picked up her suitcase and walked past him. At the door, she turned back. "For what it's worth, I think Seo Yan is brave for bringing Min Jun to you. And I think Min Jun is lucky to have you as a father. Don't waste this time because you're worried about me. I'll be fine." Diana left before he could see her cry. She moved back into a small apartment, used the money Jae-hyun had paid her to cover rent and her mother's continued treatment. Threw herself into work, picked up extra shifts, tried to outrun the heartbreak. Her mother knew something was wrong. "Baby girl," she'd said during one of Diana's visits to City of Hope. "What happened with that man? The one who got me into this fancy hospital? It's complicated, Mama. Love usually is." Her mother took her hand. "But running from complicated doesn't make it simple. It just makes you alone. He has a son, and the boy's mother is dying. I can't compete with that." "Who said anything about competing?" Her mother squeezed her fingers. "Love isn't a competition, Diana. It's a choice you make every day. And if that man loves you, truly loves you, then you fight for a place in that family. You don't run. What if there's no place for me? Then you make one. That little boy is about to lose his mother. You think he needs less love in his life? You think your man needs to do this alone? Her mother's eyes were fierce. You're scared. I understand. But don't let fear make you a coward. Diana went home and stared at her phone for 3 hours before she finally texted Jae-hyun. How is he? The response came immediately, like he'd been waiting. Not good. Won't talk to me. Cries for his mom every night. I don't know how to help him. Diana's heart broke a little more. Give him time, and yourself. You're learning to be a father in the worst possible circumstances. I miss you. Diana stared at those 3 words, typed and deleted 5 different responses. Finally settled on, I miss you too. The call came at 3 in the morning 2 weeks later. Diana was working a night shift when her phone buzzed. Jae-hyun's name flashed on the screen. Diana. His voice was wrecked. I need you. Min-jun ran away. We found him, but he's hurt, and he won't let anyone touch him except... He broke off. He's asking for you. He keeps saying, the nurse lady. I know I don't have the right to ask, but please. What hospital? No hospital. He's terrified of hospitals. We're at the house. Diana grabbed her medical bag and drove faster than she should have. Found Jae-hyun's house in chaos, men searching the grounds, and Jae-hyun in the living room, looking like he'd aged 10 years. Where is he? His room. Seo-yeon is with him, but he won't calm down. Diana took the stairs 2 at a time. Found Min-jun curled up on his bed, scraped and bleeding from where he'd fallen, crying hysterically in Korean. Seo-yeon sat beside him, tears streaming down her own face, looking frailer than ever. Min-juna, Diana said softly. The boy's head snapped up. He saw her and started crying harder, but this time he reached for her. Diana went to him immediately, let him throw his arms around her neck. He was babbling in Korean, words she didn't understand, but the grief was universal. Shh, she soothed, running her hands through his hair. You're okay. You're safe. I've got you. Slowly, his breathing evened out. He pulled back enough to look at her with red, swollen eyes. You left, he said in halting English. Like everyone leaves. Diana's heart shattered. Oh, sweetheart, I didn't leave because of you. Everyone leaves. Min-jun's voice was so small, so broken. Appa left before I was born. Yama is leaving soon. You left too. Everyone always leaves. Diana looked over at Seo-yeon, who was openly weeping now. Then at Jae-hyun, who'd appeared in the doorway, his face destroyed. You're right, Diana said carefully. I did leave. And I'm sorry. I was scared, and I made a mistake. But Min-jun, I'm here now. And if you want me to stay, if your Appa wants me to stay, then I'm not going anywhere. I promise. You promise? Min-jun searched her face. I promise. Now let me see those scrapes. I'm a nurse, remember? Fixing hurts is what I do. Min-jun let her clean his wounds, only flinching a little. She talked him through each step, gentle and calm, and by the time she'd finished bandaging his knee, he was leaning heavily against her, exhausted. I was scared, he whispered. Yama keeps getting sicker, and Appa is sad all the time, and I thought if I ran away, maybe everything would stop hurting. Diana's vision blurred with tears. Running away doesn't make the hurt stop, sweetheart. It just makes you hurt alone. And you don't have to be alone. You have your Appa and your Yama, and if you'll let me, you have me too. Min-jun looked up at her with those dark eyes so much like Jae-hyun's. Can you sing? Yama used to sing when I was scared, but now she's too tired. So Diana sang, a lullaby her own mother had sung to her, soft and low, rocking Min-jun gently. Within minutes, he was asleep against her chest. small fingers clutching her shirt like she might disappear. Seo-yeon stood shakily, and Diana looked up to see the other woman watching her with something like wonder. "Thank you," Seo-yeon said softly. "He hasn't let anyone comfort him like that since—" She didn't finish. "Can we talk? Outside." Jae-hyun took Min-jun from Diana's arms carefully, settling his son into bed. Diana followed Seo-yeon out to the hallway, her heart pounding. "I owe you an apology," Seo-yeon said once they were alone. "I came here desperate and afraid, and I didn't think about what it would do to you and Jae-hyun. I saw a chance to give Min-jun his father, and I took it selfishly. You were protecting your son, I understand that. But I also saw how Jae-hyun looks at you." Seo-yeon smiled sadly. "He never looked at me like that. Even when we were together, even when we were happy, there was always a part of him held back. But with you?" She shook her head. "With you, he's completely open, completely vulnerable. That's how I know he really loves you." Diana's throat tightened. "That doesn't change the fact that Min-jun needs you both right now." "He needs a family," Seo-yeon corrected. "And families come in all shapes. I loved Jae-hyun once, but that was a lifetime ago. What we have now is grief and a child, and the weight of what might have been. That's not love. That's just history." She reached out, took Diana's hand. "But what you two have, that's real. That's present. That's a future Min-jun deserves to see." "I don't know how to do this," Diana admitted. "I don't know how to love a man with a dying ex and a traumatized child. I don't know how to be part of this without feeling like I'm intruding on your final months together. You want to know what Min-jun said to me tonight, before he ran?" Seo-yeon's eyes glistened. "He said, 'Yama, when you go to heaven, will the nurse lady stay? Because Appa is happy when she's here, and I want him to stay happy. That little boy is already accepting that I'm leaving. He's already looking for who will be there after. And he chose you." Diana's tears spilled over. "I can't replace you." "I'm not asking you to replace me. I'm asking you to love them, to be there when I can't be, to teach Min-jun that love doesn't end just because someone dies, that he can grieve me and still let new people in." Seo-yeon squeezed her hand. "Please don't leave again. Not because of me. I don't have much time left, and I don't want to spend it watching the people I love be miserable because they're trying to do the right thing." Jae-hyun appeared in the hallway. "He's still asleep. I should—" He stopped, looking between them. "What's happening?" "I'm telling Diana that she's an idiot if she doesn't move back in," Seo-yeon said bluntly. "And you're an idiot if you let her go again. You two are giving up the best thing in both your lives because you think you're being noble. But there's nothing noble about choosing loneliness." She looked at Diana. "I'm dying. That's not changing. But I can die knowing my son will have a father who's happy, who's loved, who can show Min-jun what a healthy relationship looks like. Or I can die knowing I ruined that because I was too proud to share space with the woman who makes Jae-hyun smile like that." "Like what?" Jae-hyun asked softly. "Like he just remembered what hope feels like." Seo-yeon started back toward her room, pausing at the door. "Figure it out. Both of you. Because Min-jun is watching and learning. Show him that love is bigger than fear." She closed the door, leaving Diana and Jae-hyun alone in the hallway. "She's right," Jae-hyun said after a long moment. "I've been so focused on doing the right thing that I forgot to ask what the right thing actually is." He moved closer. "I thought protecting you meant keeping you separate from this mess. But all I did was lose you and make everything worse. I ran because I was scared," Diana admitted. "Scared I couldn't compete with a family, couldn't be enough for a man with a child. My whole life has been about not being enough. Not enough money, not enough time, not enough anything. And then I saw you with Min-jun and Seo-yeon, And I thought, here's proof. I'm not enough for this either. You're wrong. Jae-hyun cupped her face in his hands. You're everything. You saved Tae Min when everyone else gave up. You saved me from becoming someone I hated. And tonight you saved my son from drowning in fear. How is that not enough? Because being enough for you means being enough for Min-jun too. It means watching Seo-yeon die and helping him grieve and learning how to be something I've never been before. It means staying when everything in me wants to run. Then stay, Jae-hyun whispered. Stay, and let me love you through the hard parts. Stay, and help me figure out how to be a father. Stay, and show Min-jun that families can grow, that love doesn't have limits. He pressed his forehead to hers. Please, Diana. I can't do this without you. I don't want to do this without you. Diana closed her eyes. Thought about Min-jun asking her to sing, about her mother saying love is a choice, about Seo-yeon giving her blessing, about Jae-hyun looking at her like she was his North Star. Okay, she breathed. Okay, I'll stay. Jae-hyun kissed her then, desperate and relieved and full of promise. When they broke apart, he was smiling through tears. Thank you, he said, for being brave enough to try. The next 6 months were the hardest of Diana's life. Seo-yeon's condition deteriorated rapidly. Diana found herself coordinating hospice care, managing pain medications, holding the other woman's hand during the bad days. They became unlikely friends. Seo-yeon teaching Diana Korean phrases, sharing stories about Min-jun's childhood, preparing Diana for the role she'd have to fill. He likes his sandwiches cut diagonally, Seo-yeon said one afternoon, her voice weak. And he has nightmares about dogs, because one bit him when he was 4. He pretends he likes spicy food, because Jae-hyun does, but it actually hurts his stomach. Diana wrote it all down, tears streaming silently. Why are you giving me this? She asked. Because these are the things a mother knows. And when I'm gone, you'll be the closest thing he has. Seo-yeon smiled. I used to resent that. But now I'm grateful. He'll need you, Diana, more than he knows. Min-jun slowly warmed to Diana, started calling her Diana-si instead of the nurse lady. Asked her to help with his English homework. Let her braid his hair when Seo-yeon's hands shook too much. The first time he called her Diana Ioma, Diana had frozen. Is that okay? Min-jun asked nervously. Ioma said it's okay if I call you that, because you take care of me like an Ioma does. But I can stop if... It's perfect, Diana managed, pulling him into a hug. You can call me whatever feels right, sweetheart. Over her shoulder, she saw Jae-hyun watching them, something raw and beautiful on his face. Seo-yeon died on a Tuesday morning with cherry blossoms blooming outside her window. Diana was holding one hand, Jae-hyun the other, while Min-jun slept curled against his mother's side. Thank you, Seo-yeon whispered to Diana, with her last coherent words, for loving them, for being brave enough to stay. Thank you, Diana whispered back, for trusting me with them. Seo-yeon smiled, closed her eyes, and slipped away so quietly it took them a moment to realize she was gone. Min-jun's grief was enormous and terrifying. He stopped speaking for 2 weeks, stopped eating. Diana and Jae-hyun took turns sitting with him, just being present while he processed the impossible. It was Diana who finally broke through. She'd started singing again, the same lullaby she'd sung the night he ran away. And slowly, Min-jun had started singing with her, then crying, then talking. I miss her, he sobbed against Diana's chest. I know, baby. I miss her too. Will you leave too, when you get tired of me being sad? Never, Diana promised fiercely. You can be sad for as long as you need. I'm not going anywhere. Promise. I promise. You're stuck with me now." Minjun had held her tighter. "Good. Because I love you, Diana Iyama." Diana's heart had cracked open and rebuilt itself all at once. "I love you too, Minjuna." A year later, Diana stood in Jaehyun's garden watching Minjun play soccer with some kids from his school. Her mother was in remission, healthy enough to spoil her grandson by choice rotten. Diana had finished her nurse practitioner degree and opened a free clinic in Koreatown, funded by Jaehyun's legitimate businesses. Jaehyun came up behind her, wrapped his arms around her waist. "What are you thinking about?" he murmured against her ear. "About a parking lot 2 years ago. About a desperate hug that changed everything." "Best decision you ever made." "Second best," Diana corrected, turning in his arms. "The best was staying. Coming back. Choosing this even when it was hard." Speaking of choices, Jaehyun pulled a small box from his pocket, dropped to one knee. Diana's breath caught. "Diana Lukeman, you saved my life before we ever met. You saved my son's heart. You saved me from becoming someone I couldn't live with." He opened the box, revealing a simple diamond ring. "Will you let me spend the rest of my life trying to save you back? Will you marry me?" "Appa, did you ask her yet?" Minjun's voice rang out across the garden. Diana laughed through tears. "You told him?" "He insisted on helping me pick the ring. Said you liked simple things." Jaehyun grinned. "So what do you say?" Diana pulled him to his feet, kissed him deeply, then turned to Minjun. "What do you think, Minjuna? Should I marry your appa?" Minjun ran to them, threw his arms around both their waists. "Yes. Then you'll really be my Ayama forever. No takebacks." "No takebacks," Diana agreed, looking at Jaehyun. "Yes. 1,000 times. Yes." Jaehyun slipped the ring on her finger, kissed her again, and Minjun cheered. That night, after Minjun was asleep, Diana and Jaehyun sat in the garden under the stars. "Do you ever regret it?" Jaehyun asked quietly. "Choosing this life? The complications, the grief, all of it?" Diana thought about Trevor's threats, about Seo Yeon's death, about the hard months of learning to be a mother to a grieving child. Thought about the woman she'd been 2 years ago, desperate and alone in a parking lot. "Not for a second," she said. "You told me I was safe that night. And you were right. Not because you protected me from danger, but because you gave me a place where I could be fully myself, all my mess and fear and strength, and be loved anyway." "You gave me the same thing," Jaehyun said. "You saw what I was and didn't run. You stayed through the worst of it. You chose us when you could have chosen easier." "There's nothing easy about love," Diana replied. "But there's everything worth fighting for." They sat in comfortable silence, Diana's head on Jaehyun's shoulder, his hand over hers, the ring catching starlight. Inside, Minjun slept peacefully, no longer having nightmares. In the guest house that Diana had long since moved out of, her mother's room sat ready for visits. In Koreatown, Diana's clinic had a waiting list of people who finally had access to care. And in a parking lot across the city, maybe another desperate woman was making the choice that would change her life. Maybe she was running toward a stranger. Maybe she was choosing hope over fear. Diana sent up a silent prayer that she'd be as lucky as Diana had been, that she'd find someone who'd whisper "you're safe now" and mean it, that she'd find the courage to believe it. Thank you for watching Diana's story. Like, share, subscribe, hit bell notifications for more interesting stories.